Commander Worf pretends to write a poem. Odo says Chief O'Brien and Dr. Bashir look a couple centimeters shorter. And honey, I shrunk the crew. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 14, One Little Ship, written by David Weddle and Bradley Thompson, directed by Alan Craker, February 18th, 1998. It is a Nog episode, so we're joined, of course, by Malissa Longo.
Hello. It's so great to be here right now.
I was wrong. It's Natasha Longo, apparently.
Oh.
Natasha Longovska. How's everybody doing?
All right. How are you doing?
Melissa, don't start this. You're not going to be able to keep this up for 50 minutes.
I'm not going to. I'm not.
Trust me. You don't want to start something now and then be stuck with it all day. Anyway, so yeah, February 18th, 1998. Where were you? I was thinking about that. Maybe by then, the Y2K thing was already started being talked about, 98, especially into 99, just to go back into the mentality of the times back then. And Deep Space Nine had just done Far Beyond the Stars. This was certainly the other end of the spectrum from that one. It's light, it's easier, it's funny. There's still some stress and there's still some progression of the overarching story, but it's a fun episode, right?
Mm-hmm. It was a fun episode.
Oh, and by the way, sorry, I just want to say, everybody, please be sure to give this video a like, give this audio 5 stars. Please make sure to subscribe. If you can support this show, go to patreon.com/the7th-rule. Once again, that's patreon.com/the7th-rule. If you cannot support financially, subscribe, give 5 stars, comment, share this with your friends. That is the freest way to help support this show. And it is as good as liquid latinum. It's virtual latinum. So we thank you for that. And with that, so sorry, Cirroc, please continue.
No, I was just going to say about that time period. Mm-hmm. Prince had a song where he said, "Party like it's 1999." And that New Year's leading up to 1999 was the most appropriate year to play that song. So I remember dancing to that song on New Year's of 1999.
I remember that as well.
About you guys. Yeah.
Melissa, did you party like it was 1990? Because everybody was like, "Oh my God, there's a song called Party Like It's 1999, and we're about to go into 1999, you guys."
Yes.
Get it?
Yeah. Get it?
You remember that?
Yeah.
I remember the song, but I only listened to it on the radio. I didn't actively go out and listen to it.
That's true. You're only 6. You probably don't even remember.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Anyway, yeah. So this was another one of those episodes where I didn't quite remember it at the very beginning, but then as soon as they're going to shrink, they mentioned they're going to shrink people. You're like, oh yes, that's right. They're trying to boost their ship sales for their toy line in this episode.
Okay.
Yeah. There were, sometimes when I'm watching a DS9 episode, for example, watching Far Beyond the Stars before this, I didn't really need much of an explanation about the tech and the science. Right. We talked about that. I just went with the story. You didn't really need to say, because of this anomaly and they're back in 1950. I didn't really need to hear all that. I bought it the way they sold it to me. It was happening in Sisko's head, and that was enough for me.
Yeah.
But in this episode, I found myself kind of questioning the tech a little bit. right? And saying to myself, would that be possible? And how come that is? And finding myself asking myself questions about whether I buy the way they're selling it to me. And I wish that I was able to get it, without that kind of a thing, because you start to question things. One of the questions I had, for example, when they're talking about being miniaturized, she's laughing in the beginning, and Kira's like, "Oh God, we're gonna shrink these guys. It's so funny," and Nog says, "Smaller than a coffee cup," which I love the whole exchange, because it actually shows kind of the familiarity that they have with each other in ops. I love that part of this story, the relationship building and the relationships that are formed. So that part of the story I like. The part where I start to get into the questioning is saying, well, I think Bashir said something like, well, O'Brien was like, is this going to work? And he was a little bit nervous about being shrunk down. And I think Dax said some kind of throwaway line like, yeah, we tried it in the test simulation or something, right? Or, with the drones that we sent through.
Drones, right.
And yeah, and that made me say, well, drones is one thing, but human life is another. I need some more draw experience with this, right? Can we send a rat through next time? Or can we send like some kind of life form?
Cirroc, so you don't want to be the lab rat then?
No. That is instantly, I was like, seriously, hasn't been tried that much. There's no like background information, like Starfleet. Like, oh no, you remember when Starfleet already we tried this, or the theory of that they proved already. Some kind of better explanation, as opposed to we tried it one time, it worked that once. Remember that one time? That wasn't enough for me. And then it just led to more and more of those kinds of questions. I don't know about you guys.
They're like, we tried it on a peach. How different can a human be? What's the big deal? Get in there, you big wuss.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, that raises the question in my head as to who were the first guinea pigs to try out transporters, because that you would think is far more dangerous, because they're splitting up all of your little molecules and then putting them back together. So who were the guinea pigs for that test?
Ferengi. They're like, there's a strip of latinum on the other side for you, buddy. They were
actually that would be an interesting short film to see how they tested all of these things. Maybe Lower Decks, something for Lower Decks to cover.
Or short treks.
Or short treks,
right. Or short treks. But essentially, the first replicator experience, the first transport experience, these kinds of, first warp core breach, the guy who had to figure out that you don't want to go in there.
And what kind of food was replicated in the first replicator? And how did they know that it was nutritious?
It's probably applesauce.
Yamak sauce, if I'm not mistaken.
Yamak sauce. The Cardassian apple. Okay.
Yeah, some kind of sauce.
Yeah.
But that would be good to know, and also like what person is credited for coming up with inventions and things of that nature. That could be a whole backstory of reference. But essentially, I was waiting for that level of explanation, as opposed to, we tried it one time with that little model, with proton, it just wasn't enough for me. And so then it started going on and on from there about like questions. But once again, I did like the relationships between characters.
Yeah.
Also, not to segue too much, but I wanted to point out that a couple of our favorite writers, and by favorite writers, I mean, we've mentioned them a few times before. It's David Weddle and Bradley Thompson, because they seem to appear always together, written by, they're a good writing team, obviously. And when you look them up, you see that they've done a ton of Deep Space Nine episodes as like executive story editor and all that in the later seasons, right? But before that, clearly they were just brought on as, like a one-time writer, and they got a story by for Rules of Engagement, and teleplay by The Assignment, written by Business as Usual and Sons and Daughters, and this one, One Little Ship. And then from there, they moved on to higher titles like story editor and executive story editor. So this was the final episode that they did that, I guess, I don't really know how the inner politics work, but that seems like it convinced the room to be like, okay, we've been doing this almost 6 years. Can you just handle this episode? And then they work their way up into actually being part of the team, not just like a, writer's version of a day player or something like that. They actually, got staffed as executive story editor and story editor. So good on them. I'd love to have them sometime to see how that process kind of works. And if, it's something that they were trying to do, or if they just, if the writers just threw that at them and said, hey, what are you doing for like the next, I don't know, year and a half? Like, do you mind being on the team? Anyway, just wanted to point that out with those guys.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yes, Melissa, I'm sorry. That's all I have about them. I could talk about more. I didn't mean to like ruin the conversation with that. She's like, that was, I don't know where to go with that. That was it.
Yeah, that would be fun to find out where they came from. But I wanted
and they also went into Battlestar Galactica after that. Really? Yeah, and they did they're currently doing For All Mankind, which is a really cool one as well. They worked on The Strain and Falling Skies, which I believe Doug Jones acted in both of those. CSI, tons and tons of stuff. Anyway,
Doug Jones was in The Strain?
I believe so. I remember seeing him at least in one episode with like a big open maw.
Huh.
Anyway, sorry.
My cousin was in that show.
See? That's why I brought this up.
Wow.
To connect all the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back to actually we should get a chance, if we can, reach out to them and see if we can get them on the show. Love to
yeah,
talk about their journey. And obviously they probably have some of their roots and beginnings in DS9 as they've moved their way up the writing ladder. But back to the episode specifically. The moment that I loved really the most, Melissa, was when I like Nog covering for Worf and like that kind of.
Yeah,
so cute.
The kid.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I love that moment. There's actually so many wonderful moments between characters. And I love that you brought up the relationship and familiarity, because that's exactly what I wrote in my notes too, was the familiarity of the entire crew. And it's wonderful, the interactions between Kira and Sisko, when they're laughing about them being small, and then Worf and Nog are like, well, I don't see what's so funny about that, and Nog is hurt because he's like, yeah, why is it funny to be small? And then when they're working together in the warp core, there's still that level of camaraderie that is wonderful, and which is the reason why they work so well together and are able to escape the Jem'Hadar so well. It's a wonderful look at teamwork, and not just one person is the hero in the story. They all have a part to play in the solution of this problem. So, and I like to see that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's what Star Trek does so well, is that everybody has their job, everybody has their moment. Sometimes an episode is focused on one specific character, but usually it's more of an ensemble in the truest way. We still know who the captain is. We still know who the boss is, even if it's not specifically a Sisko episode. like this is not a really, if anything, you can maybe say it's about Dax and Worf, because that's kind of, it starts off with Dax and, with Worf being concerned for Dax, and it closes. But really, it's not really. It's just an ensemble episode. Everybody has their parts, and everybody's a hero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think DS9 does that really well in illustrating how you don't have to rely on one person all the time to save the day. They can count on each other to, play the part, or fill the roles that they're good at. And it's nice to see that Sisko trusts his crew as much as he does, and puts his faith in their ability to do their jobs, because they can do their jobs. So it's nice to see that, and it's nice when people do stand out and shine, and it's because they have the support of the rest of the crew. So yeah.
Yeah, and so the examples that I give of those moments of the kind of camaraderie between each other, when Nog covers for Worf, it's Sisko that takes notice of it. He says, "Oh, look, he's just covering for his buddy here. Looks like we got a friendship brewing here," or something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
So that's the observation and the interplay. The other interplay was kind of Sisko laughing along with Kira in the moment where he decided to join her in her laughter, because I guess her laugh makes him laugh. So that was another just small moment, but it just shows that how the chemistry between people. Mm-hmm. I also like the moment when O'Brien is looking out from the mini ship at Nog as they're kind of assessing what Sisko's plan is to infiltrate the computer system.
Great.
And that moment when O'Brien is breaking it down, he's like, Worf's got to go and do this, and Sisko's trying to distract them, and da-da-da-da. But then he says, "Nog's the key," and that was a great moment for me too, because it's just it showed to me how far he's come as a character, from being somebody who's get out of the way, we're working over here, to now he's the key, right? Nog's the key, his information, what he's about to do, his skill set. Without him, they can't really pull this off. Nog's a smart kid. That was the other line right after that. He said, "Nog's the key. Nog's a smart kid. He'll figure it out." And I just like the way, here O'Brien is now kind of tipping his hat and complimenting him without him even knowing it, from far away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it's important that they keep showing the progression of Nog, the character, because we don't want to see Nog going to Starfleet Academy, then becoming a cadet, then suddenly he's just great at everything. That wouldn't make sense. We want to see bit by bit by bit, and we're watching it through the eyes of his superiors, going "Oh, right, very good," or "Hey, or he's doing well." They're being convinced bit by bit, so we're being convinced bit by bit. Another trick that the writers are doing is really they're explaining it to Bashir, on the script, but the point of that is to explain it to us. They're going "Well, here's the plan, Bashir, blah 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 blah." They're letting us know. So here's what's going on. Here's the story. And I was thinking about Nog and how he fits into this crew. And I was thinking, if they had not done this, brought Nog up, from the character he was into the character that he is, they would only have 3 officers there. They'd have Sisko and Worf and Kira, and it really wouldn't have worked. They might be able to bring on Odo, but then who's watching the station, So I always thought that they needed an extra officer or 2, because when the show first started, there were 4 actual Starfleet officers, and that's it. 4 Starfleet officers, and then Worf and Odo. And I felt like in order to create the stories that they needed to create and really expand the show, they needed to, it was a little thin on officers. And then they brought Worf, then they added Nog, then they added a ship, and now it's It's like this full complement. But I don't know, if Nog wasn't there, who do you think they would have replaced him with?
I don't think there is anybody they could have replaced Nog with.
Eddington?
Because he's dead.
You're a little too happy about that.
But I think Nog is just the natural choice for that part. And yeah, it's great because it's Nog's teachers that are acknowledging his growth, you know, and seeing that he's actually grasping what he's been taught from O'Brien, from Sisko, from Kira, from Worf. He's absorbing all of this stuff and doing it successfully. And it doesn't happen all, you know, at one time. It's kind of similar to Prodigy in that way. Prodigy's doing a great job of illustrating this teamwork and showing that to learn something, you have to do it over and over and over again to sometimes to find the solution. It's not just going to happen immediately. And so I think Nog is the perfect person to illustrate that. I lost the word, but illustrate that.
Yeah, and illustrate the growth. But also, you mentioned who else could do it. Well, it'd have to be somebody in Starfleet, because I mean, we know that Rom has the technical knowledge to be able to pull something off like this, right? Because he does have advanced engineering skills. But he wouldn't be necessarily able to, unless he was commandeered, you know, to be in part of a Starfleet mission, because he wouldn't be on a mission.
Right. Yeah, because he's not an officer.
Right. So
Melissa, this is the last time you're showing up drunk. Okay, it's too early in the day to be drunk off Yamik sauce.
Yeah, blame it on Natasha.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's 5 o'clock in Russia. Okay.
Yes. But no, there was another moment that I really liked too. There was a moment where Nog is telling Sisko, you know, that he's been trying to run various algorithms, and every time he gets past the first step into the second step, it resets all the code, and he has to start all over again. And he's kind of frustrated, almost to the point where he's about, you know, he's like, this is hopeless almost, right? There's no way it can be done. And there's a very good moment between him and Sisko there where he tells Sisko, he's like, so, hey, if this doesn't work, do you have a backup plan in case things don't work out?
Oh, yeah.
And Sisko's like, he looks at him and you're thinking, you know, what's he going to say? That's what I'm thinking. What's Sisko going to tell Nog? Like, none of your business, or don't worry about it. Or I know he's not going to lay out the backup plan. But yes, he did lay out the backup plan. He's like, yeah, I'm going to blow the strip up. I'm going to destroy the ship, which means us in it, right? I guess.
Right.
Welcome to Starfleet, kid.
Yeah.
This is the real world.
Yeah, we're all gonna die. Yeah.
And then
the
Nog's
look,
look.
we all die.
Yeah. Nog's look is like, okay, maybe I should get back to work then.
Yeah, give me a second. Give me another chance. Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Yeah,
I'll
figure this out.
Actually, that moment where Aron as Nog went like, you know, he has that kind of nervous reaction. I kind of stopped and pictured Aron doing it, you know, because sometimes you can just get lost in, you know, Aron is here, Nog is here. But every once in a while, you try to connect the two and see, is that an Aron-ism, or is that, you know, or is that Aron just creating an ism for Nog? And I couldn't quite come up with an answer for that, because I never really saw Aron really do it that extreme, or maybe he just kind of got an Aronism and made it more extreme. You know what I mean? Like kind of to create the character, he just brought up that reaction to a higher level. But anyway, sometimes I try to like piece that together and figure like, Where did that come from? Did he create that reaction, or is that something that he always did and like amplified it? But we do have to take a very quick break. And we'll be right back on the seventh rule.